being here in this first our meeting of the 10 Franciscan Words, this program that we really hope that can help us to follow Jesus with some insight from the Franciscan spirituality. So I don't want to explain how the program, the course, or the, I don't know, whatever we want to call it, is gonna be, because we'll discover together, hopefully. But at the end, to be honest with you, I'm gonna remind you and explain a little bit also the other meetings. So I just start. Only I want to check if behind there you can hear me, because it's quite echoing. It's okay? It's okay. So, as you can see from the title, Letizia. What is Letizia? Why we use this term and not like, for example, happiness or joy, gladness, or I don't know, cheerfulness, I don't know. Why Letizia? Why? Because the word Letizia immediately identify what really Saint Francis lived during his own life. We can say that Saint Francis of Assisi reached the true joy, yani the Christ one, but instead of all the time say true joy, we can summarize it by using the term Letizia. We can summarize it using Letizia. Let's go step by step. First of all, we need some brief background about Saint Francis. Francis of Assisi lived from 1181, to the 3rd of October, 1226. And he was a young and rich man from a small city in the center of Italy. This city called Assisi. He was rich because of his father's business. In fact, Francis, the father of Francis, was a prosperous sea merchant. So Francis, before, we can say like this, before encountered Jesus, so when he was young, he was known as king of the feasts among his friends. Why? Because he used to organize a lot of feasts and pay for everybody. We could say that he had a dissolute life somehow. Moreover, this is very important, Francis had one big dream: to become a knight, a horseman. You know, at that time, becoming a knight meant access to royalty, being made into a high-born nobleman. So this was the dream of the young Francis. And this dream, it's very linked to happiness. You know, if you achieve your dreams, you're gonna be happy, right? I hope, hopefully. I mean, that's the goal, hopefully, to be happy. And here, we can start to see the difference between happiness and Letizia. Happiness is when you achieve your own goal in life, your own dreams. Yani something that you and you alone want to do. So happiness, it's linked to dreams. Letizia, instead, it's more linked to desires. And now you can ask me, but sorry, Father, dreams are not the same of desires? I mean, normally, we use these two words in order to express the same meaning, right? Normally, in our daily life. But from our faith perspective, they are not exactly the same. Let's see. Let's repeat again. When you have a dream, it's like something that you want to achieve. It's your own goal in life. And it's probably also something that you could never fulfill. Like, I don't know, if you ask to a kid, what's your dream? I don't know, maybe answer, I want to be a famous footballer, or a famous cricketman, or a famous movie actor. I don't know. Dreams a little bit difficult to realize, isn't it? At least a little bit. On the other hand, when you desire something, it's different. I mean, once again, I'm speaking from a faith point of view, of course. Why? Because the word desire comes from this Latin term, desidero. That means nostalgia for the stars. And the stars represent God. So desidero, and so desire, means to have nostalgia of God. In other words, desire express the will to fulfill what God desires for us. You see, desires lead to Letizia. Why? Because Letizia is what God desires for us, for our life. Can you see the difference between dream and desire? So, dream leads to happiness, your own goal. Desire leads to Letizia, what God desires for you. So, we were saying, our young Francis had a dream to become a famous knight. And so he went to some military expedition, because this is the way at that time, one of the way to achieve the status of highborn. So, at that time there was a conflict between two Italian cities, Assisi and Perugia, and Francis joined the army. So between 1202 and 1203, so 1 year, Francis was taken as a prisoner, and there, for the first time, he got in touch in a special way with some part of the Holy Scriptures. Why? Because other prisoners had some part of them. So, also, during his captivity, he got seriously sick. And after 1 year, this is why 1202 and 1203 was released. Later, because Francis was a little bit stubborn, so he tried again, another military expedition, but along the way, he had a sort of vision, and he decided to go back to Assisi. And at this very point, we can say that truly Francis started in his heart a process of conversion towards God. Although a very turning point of his life was the encounter with a leper. But about this encounter, we're gonna talk in the next words. So, but just to keep in mind, for Francis, meeting a leper, a poor leper, was crucial, important. So let's keep in mind this. Due to this encounter with the poor leper, he decided to change his life and give everything to God. So, in this time, Francis is switching from his dream to become a knight to the desire to give his own life completely to God. And throughout his life, he understood and reached the Letizia. Okay. Having said so, just to have a frame, let's look together at one St. Francis text, the one that you have in your hands. We can call this text that you have like the parable of Letizia. And we go a little bit deep on that text in order to understand what is this Letizia. So, the text says, the same friar, Brother Leonard, recalled there that one day Blessed Francis, while at St. Mary of the Angels, this location is a very beautiful spot in Assisi, called Friar Leo and said, Friar Leo, write. Who responded, behold, I am ready. Write, he said, what is true joy? A messenger comes and says that all the masters of Paris have entered the order. They joined, Francis means. Right? Not Letizia. Why? Because Letizia is not cultural power. Yani all the masters of Paris have entered the order. We have to keep in mind, brothers and sisters, that the minor Franciscan order, so Francis and his companions, are just born. I mean, the Pope approved the St. Francis rule since few years. So saying all the masters of Paris have entered in the order means all the high-level, clever and culturally prepared people at that time joined the order. That means that the order is getting famous and very popular. But St. Francis says, no, that is not Letizia. Letizia does not come from cultural power. And the text goes on. Likewise, that all the prelates beyond Alps, archbishops and bishops, write, not Letizia. So, these people, they join the order. Not Letizia. Why? Because Letizia for Francis is not something related to any ecclesiastical power. Yani all the prelates beyond the Alps, archbishops and bishops, that means that all the world big people not only recognize the importance of the order, but actually join it. That should be a tremendous news. How you cannot be happy for that? But St. Francis says, no, Letizia. Letizia does not come from the ecclesiastical power. And the text goes on. Likewise, that I have from God this grace, that I make the sick healthy and work many miracles. I say to you that in all these things there is not Letizia. Strong, eh? So Letizia not either comes from the evangelical power. Make the sick healthy and work many miracles. That means all things that actually happened during the life of St. Francis, because for real, he made a lot of miracles. Imagine, even the power of doing miracles doesn't count as Letizia for St. Francis. You know, the friars at that time, they were getting proud because, come on, performing miracles, it's huge stuff. I mean, who wouldn't be proud of this? But Francis, no, is not interested in power of any kind, even in the one that Jesus gave to him performing miracles. And moreover, he doesn't care of results. I mean, he cares. But because he was actually God working through him, he has nothing to be proud of. Otherwise, it would mean misappropriating those things that God has done. The friars for Francis must therefore minister with humility. And here, after these three points, start the second part of the text, or the parable actually. Because we can ask to ourselves, so okay, and what is, Letizia, what is true joy? And St. Francis, in order to explain this, began to narrate this story. I returned from Perugia, and in the dead of night, I come here, and it is winter time, muddy, and what is more, so frigid that icicles have concealed at the edge of my tunic, and they always pierce my skins, and blood comes forth from such wounds, and entirely covered with mud, and in the cold and ice, I come to the gate, and after I knock for a long time and call, there comes a friar, and he asks, who is it? It is possible. I mean, the founder of the order is knocking at your door. Who is it? Come on. It's like the Pope is there. Who is it? No way. Who is it? Who is it? And I respond, Friar Francis. And he says, go away. It is not a decent hour for going about. You will not enter. Go away. It is not a decent hour for going about. This means not that during evening time it's better not to go around knocking at randomly house doors. The meaning of this sentence is, Francis, you are out of time. It is no longer your time. We don't care about you anymore. What an humiliation. What an humiliation. Yet, Francis stayed. He didn't leave. He remained there in front of the one who just humiliated him. And in fact, the text says, and again, he would respond to my insistence. Go away. You are a simpleton and an idiot. You do not measure up to us. We are so many and such men that we are not in need of you. So for the second time, Francis asked to get inside. And for the second time, he was rejected. Go away. You are a simpleton, idiot. You do not measure up to us. We are so many, such men. Voila. Have you seen? Of course, the friar at the door recognized Francis. But he is saying, we are so many and such men. But can you see? It's exactly the example that St. Francis said before at the beginning of the text. Do you remember? All the masters of Paris and all the prelates beyond the Alps, archbishops, bishops, have entered the order, right? Not through joy. I mean, here, it is like this. At one point, everyone wanted to enter in the order. So this was a real situation. So this friar at the door rejecting St. Francis, he is saying, now we are powerful. We don't need you any longer. This is what this friar, the brother of St. Francis, says to St. Francis. Second humiliation. Big one, actually. And yet, Francis stayed. He didn't leave. He remained there in front of the one who just humiliated him for the second time. And I stand again at the gate, and I say, for the love of God, take me in this night. And he would respond, I will not. Here Francis, you see, changed the request and asked not for him, but for the sake of God. And I stand again at the gate and I say, for the love of God, take me in this night. But again, I will not. This I will not, it's even worse than the previous. Because here, not only means you are useless to us, but there is inside this you, I will not, there is inside a sort of contempt, a sort of scorn. In fact, go away to the place of cruciers and ask there, go away to the place of cruciers. The place of cruciers, brothers and sisters, it's actually the place where the lepers stay. It's a leper colony, leprosy, I don't know. And as I mentioned before, Francis, at the beginning of his faith life, had a very powerful encounter with leper. So lepers at that time were the most rejected by the society. In fact, at the beginning of the Franciscan life, Francis and his companion, they were gathered together, living together with the lepers. There is a nice place in Assisi called Rivotorto. This is actually there are some parts that are original, other is reconstructed, but this is the leprosy, the place where Francis and his companion, together with lepers, they live together. So when this guy at the door says to Francis, go back, the meaning is go back there, where your friends are, where your lepers friends are. And this is the peak of rejection, of mockery, of insult, of humiliation. But St. Francis, once again, stayed. He didn't leave. He remained there in front of the closed door. And there, the text concludes. I say to you that if I will have had patience and will not have been moved, that in this is true joy. That is Letizia and true virtue and soundness of soul. So, Letizia, for St. Francis, comes not from power, but from standing in front of that very closed door. Why? Because inside there are his brothers. They no longer feel that they are Francis' brothers, but he, Francis, continues to feel that they are his brothers, and he does not abandon them. That's Letizia. That's Letizia. So, now that maybe we are starting to a little bit go deeper inside this word, I like just to underline few last points, because I promise you it's not going to be long. So, few points just to show you that this text could be a beautiful text to pray upon, to be meditated. And we'll do this in our second section, actually. But just few points. So, the first one. If you notice, there is nothing new in this parable of St. Francis. I mean, after all, it is the same rejected and crucified love that Jesus received. Jesus refused to come down from the cross and thus remain on the cross, never using the force of power, but always and only the force of love, knowing that only love can change the world. Only love is all powerful. So, as Jesus, Francis stayed there. Second point. For 3 times, St. Francis was rejected. We saw this, no? 3 times. But brothers and sisters, it is not by chance that Jesus in the desert was tempted by Satan for 3 times. It is not by chance that Jesus himself fell down 3 times in his journey to the Calvary, as well as it is not by chance that for 3 times Peter denied to be one of the Jesus disciples. So you can see how many links we have with this Letizia's text. Another point that I like to suggest to you, actually, if you look at the text once again, you can identify different verbs: return, come, knock, call, stand. This gives us the idea of a process, a step-by-step indication for living Letizia within our daily relationships. Why? Because all these verbs helps us to understand what St. Francis called perfect obedience. I don't know if you know, but I'm going to tell you. For St. Francis, in his own scripts, he himself identified 3 types of obedience: the true one, the loving one, and the perfect one. So it's true obedience, Francis says, when is obedience? Yani, I don't know, your master ordered to you something and you obey. Very simple. That one is true obedience. The loving obedience means if you see better things instead of the one that your master asks you to do, for the sake of love, leave the best one and just follow what your master asks you to do. The loving obedience. And after we have the perfect one, that means that if your master ordered you something and this is against your will, against Jesus, against love, in order to obey, disobey. If he is against your will, against Jesus, against love, in order to do a perfect obedience, disobey. Do not do what your master asks you to do, but, and here comes the perfection of the obedience, do not leave him. In script it is written, for he who endures persecution rather than wishing to be separated from his brothers, truly remains in perfect obedience. So, these verbs, return, come, knock, call, stand, are actually what we, in our daily life, we can, pass through. Sometimes we knock, sometimes we have to return, sometimes we stand, sometimes we call. It gives this idea, this impression of our journey, in order to put Letizia in our daily life. And last but not the least, inside this parable of Letizia, there are also what we call our 3 vows. I mean, the 3 vows of consecrated life. And in particular, I would say, I want to underline the Franciscan life. Why? Because, poverty with nothing of their own, this is with nothing on their own, is very particular from the Franciscan life. And chastity and obedience, are the 3 vows, Poverty without nothing on their own. Why? Because Francis, in this parable that we read together, remained with nothing of his own. Even his own order, the one that he founded, now is carried away from him. He has nothing left. Go away. We don't need you anymore. Chastity, why? Because with patience and without having been moved in heart, Francis stayed there. And this is chastity, being able to love, patient without having been moved in heart. And the third one, obedience, the perfect obedience. That means never ever abandon his brothers. Why? Because they are his family. As simple as this, his family. So these 3 vows lead to the glory of God. That is the true virtue as salvation. And now you can say, okay, thank you, Father. Interesting, this stuff about the 3 vows. But come on, it's for you. You are a friar, or for religious nuns, or I don't know, because these 3 vows are for you, consecrated people. Nope. Why? Because these 3, our vows, are actually the 3 evangelical counsels that each of us received when we were baptized. Exactly the same. But don't get scared. Now I want to explain you something, because so I have to move. So, because otherwise you cannot understand what I want to tell you. For example, this is a container, yes? There is water inside, correct? Correct. So, different shape, another glass, correct? Completely different, yes? Water, same water, exactly the same water. Same water. Different glass, correct? But the same water, yes? Different glass, correct? Same water, same water. Different glass, but same water. What I want to say, the content of the 3 evangelical counsels, yani poverty, chastity, obedience, the water is the same for everybody by baptism. The same dip, the same dignity, the same beauty. But all of us, we are different. We have different vocations, different containers, different glasses. My glasses as Franciscan friars has a form, specific shape. But the water is the same. But that water, because it's water, of course, it became, it stayed inside the container. Correct? But for, I don't know, the one of you who are married, the glass is different. So it will become a little bit different in shape. That means the vocation is different. The way to express chastity, of course, is different between me and the one of you who are married. Of course it's different, but it's exactly the same water. Exactly the same. So you can see, all of us, we have poverty, chastity, and obedience. Simply the containers, our vocation is different. So the way how we give the form of that water in life, in our daily life, is different. Chastity for me means also not to have specific relationship with someone, not have sons, whatever, daughters, whatever. For the one who is married, chastity means to have, of course, family and whatever. So, but the water is the same, because chastity doesn't mean you cannot have intimate relations with the other. This is not chastity. This is continence. Chastity means is a perfect way to love, because you have to put in the center the other person. You just move and you put the other in the center. That is chastity. Why? Because you have a pure way to look at the other. You are always ready to serve the other. Means to help the other to become holy. So the water is the same, but the glasses are different. So that's why the 3 evangelical counsels are given to all of us during baptism. Just to conclude, I'd like to show you a few pictures about these evangelical 3 things, because are inside the Basilica of St. Francis, the Church of St. Francis in Assisi. Just to, start to see a little bit of this beautiful church. This is the Basilica of St. Francis in Assisi. It is built in 3 levels. There is the very deep one. There is the tomb where Francis is there with some companions. There is the inferior basilica, like a middle one. And there is the superior basilica. In the middle one, the inferior one part looks like this. I mean, it's this, It's like this. So here, a lot of frescoes, a lot of paintings, everything. And there is the life of Jesus going on, and in parallel, the life of Francis going on. Okay. But there is one particular thing that I want to show you. One point, if you just write above the altar, you just look up and you see this. Here there are 4 scenes, 4 images. And of course are poverty, chastity, obedience. That these 3 lead to the glory of God. That is the 4th one. So, this one is poverty. This one is chastity. This one is obedience. This Francis kneeled. And together, these 3 vows gives the glory of God. So, just to show you something about the Basilica. So, Letizia, true joy, Christ's joy. I hope something you can get of this. You have the text. What we're gonna do in the next section, that will be in 10 days from now, so the 27th. What we basically said today, we're gonna bring in prayer, because there's no sense to give catechesis if you cannot pray on that one, if you cannot after do a spiritual sharing of that one among us, and if you cannot eat together as a fraternal meaning, a fraternal life. This is our Franciscan way to incarnate, embodied the Word of God, okay? So, next time, the 27th, we're gonna meet here, like today, after Mass, and we're gonna have a Eucharistic exposition, so we'll pray. I'm gonna give you some questions next time, that you can use it or not. Doesn't matter, it's up to you. Are just suggestions in order to pray upon this Letizia of St. Francis in our life. So we're going to ask the Holy Spirit to help us to understand, to go deeper. And the third time, we'll share. Well, we divide in little groups and we just share what the Holy Spirit inspires us during the prayer. And once again, the first time we finish in glory, as the fresco told us. So we eat a little meal together because that part is fundamental for St. Francis. Fundamental because makes family. Like around the table, around the altar, actually. So, Halas, thank you. You can bring home, of course, your paper and see you, hopefully. Please, if you can come for the 4 sections, is the best way to really go deep in one word. And every of the 10 Franciscan words, we're gonna develop like this. So 4 sections in this way. So I look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you for being here. God bless you, really.